you. When it comes to progress, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to progress, people are an integral part. People are a very integral part of that. People can teach you, people can inspire you, people can work side by side with you, people can offer you opportunities, connections, capital, sweat equity, all kinds of things like that. No man is an island, no one does it alone. These are things that we hear often. Um, However, fortunately or unfortunately, it is also the case that people can hold you back. At least they can refuse to have a positive impact on you, right? They can hold back their inspirational spirit. They can fill your head with non-inspirational ideas. They can hold you back. They can do the whole crabs in the bucket thing. In other words, all the way from actively, systematically sabotaging you to other passive, maybe less conscious ways, all the way down to just not bringing value to the table, ladies and gentlemen. And over here, when it comes to getting ish done with Ike and Dr. Thunder, we want to be able to demarcate these things. Why exactly do people do this? How can you spot those enemies of progress out there, Dr. Thunder? How do you spot them? How do you spot them?
Oh man, just open your eyes. They're all over the place.
Open your eyes, they're over the place. You could throw a stone in any particular direction, and you're gonna get enemies of progress. They're probably in the chat right now. No, no, no. You guys in the chat are all good people. You guys are wonderful people. They're great. They're tremendous. What's the hand gesture again? Is it like
right.
it's this guy? Yeah, they're great. They're tremendous. Everybody knows it. They're very, very lovely people. Very lovely people in the chat. Ladies and
That's
gentlemen,
right.
welcome to another episode of Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. And what are we doing today? Today we're getting behind the idea of enemies of progress. Okay, and I think that this is going to be a series of conversations. I don't think we're going to exhaust this one in 1 week. Do you think so, Dr. Thunder? What are your thoughts in that regard?
I it it doesn't see given our track record, it doesn't seem that this is going to be just one show. I mean, there's all kinds of ways, pathways, all kinds of tangents, all kinds of.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that we can really get to, and I think this series is of critical importance. I think all the stuff that we talk about. Of course, we're biased, but all the stuff I think we talk about, I think, is important stuff. But sort of spotting the snake in the grass. That's an important one.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And as I just kind of alluded to, there are many kind of gradations of snake in the grass. And when it comes to getting things done and this whole idea of enemies of progress, one perhaps could start from the whole idea of what people can do for you. I kind of enumerated it in that little short intro that I gave. Okay. What can people do for you? Well, people can, as I say, generally speaking, they're either in the inspirational category or they're in the teaching you category or they're working with you side by side with sweat equity or getting you into networks, giving you access to capital, giving you access to other kinds of resources, giving you access to their ideas and letting you know where the opportunities may lie and so on and so forth, right? So I guess one way to spot these people, would you say, Dr. Thunder? One way to spot the quote unquote enemies of progress on the milder, tamer end of the spectrum is to just find out, well, whom are people whom are not teaching me, not inspiring me,
Hmm.
not working side by side with me, not giving me good ideas for opportunities or anything like that, not letting me into any kind of viable networks with any viable nodes. I think that's just a basic beginning. What can people do for you in order to progress? What are the list of these things? And anyone who does not have this is at least in that beginning. It's in the entry level hater category, are they not?
Yes, and there's a tension between uh, you know spotting these folks and learning who to cut off and where you want to be in the networks that you know, the ones that you're trying to get into, you're trying to break into, uh, because you don't want to be the most, the best person in the network.
Nope.
The strongest, you know, the most connected, whatever. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the person that's at the bottom, because that way you can really take advantage of, you know, uh, take advantage of the network, because it's going to expose you to things that you yourself don't already have access to.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's a tension between you always trying to make yourself the person that needs the most help, the person that is the most green in whatever the association,
Mhm.
but then also being sensitive that uh, folks that maybe you grew up with that maybe aren't the they're not particularly motivated. Maybe they have had some trouble with the law. Maybe they have 3 or 4 baby mamas. They might not be the ones that you want to keep close, at least not at this point, because it's likely that they're going to have their hand out rather than being able to offer a hand up.
Mhm. 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 So I think that what you mentioned there about being the bottom, okay, is a clean and very because it works all kinds of magic for you already to begin with. You're the one getting the most value there. Now, obviously, there's also tension between you being able to bring enough value into a room where you are at the bottom of, because obviously there's a there's a glass floor in every room, right? You got to at least be valuable enough to be
Right.
there.
Well,
Yeah. So
they might think you're the person that we're talking about now, trying to weed out. So
exactly. They
that's
might be
the
trying to
challenge.
get rid of you. They might be trying to get rid of you, Atonement and Terrence and 19 Bash. You might be the one that they're trying to get rid of. You might be the one that they're whispering about. You might be the one that this whole video is about. Maybe that's why we're making this video. But I think that it's a good thing that you mentioned there, because you can say that it's a one simple rule in order to make sure that this entry level hater aspect is taken care of. Because if you're in a room where people are more inspirational, know more than you, have more networks, net worth, access, done more than you, then you don't have to worry. Are these people going to bring me value? Are these people going to hold me back? No, you're already like, oh my God, I better catch up, right? So I
Right.
think that this is a good rule there. I think you said more that one rule before you moved on to, okay, well, some people you don't have want to be there, and the tension involved with that, and how perhaps you may weed these people out. But that simple rule there of just being in a room where you are the least, you have the most to gain, the most to learn, takes care of that first problem of not having people around that are not in the teacher, inspirational, or working next to you and giving you value category.
Yeah, and in one sense, it may seem hypocritical because you yourself are trying to be the bottom, but you also are aware or trying to be more aware of folks that are going to bring you down and trying to excommunicate them. um, but the but this it's not hypocritical, because part of what makes someone pull you down, it's not where they are right now.
Hmm.
It's potential within the person. It is uh, growth. It's stuff that you're seeing that they're actively pursuing that
Hmm.
says, you know what, right now, that guy he might be the lowest guy, but he's not going to be the lowest guy very long.
Hmm.
Right. So, see, I'm always trying to be that guy that's trying to get to the next level. And uh, so, so I'm not going to be the person that people are going to be looking at like, well, you know, he's he's not really pulling his weight. He's late all the time. He's always asking for a loan. He's always asking for an advance on his paycheck. Um, he's hanging out at what's the name of those companies? Payday advance establishments. Actually, I think establishment might be too that might be too lofty a word for this organizations. Uh, anyhow, but But so there's no hypocrisy there. It's actually because what we're talking about is if you're in at the bottom, you recognize that you better pull your weight or you're not going to be in that group for very long. Whereas people that you're trying to cut off the dead wood, the folks that are not contributing anything, and they have not shown that they're going to, uh, not be the bottom forever. You know,
Hmm. Hmm. So you don't want to be that bottom guy. You also want to be able to spot, as I said, maybe they can't teach you anything, but they're inspiring. They can't teach you anything because
right?
they did blah blah blah. But you're like, ah, that guy's hardworking, so they're inspiring. Maybe they know somebody, blah blah blah, all those kinds of things, and you want to avoid being the person that is not bringing anything. And then therefore, when you're in that room, you avoid category level one enemy of progress. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, remember, okay, we're giving you the game here. Okay, this says how. Okay, how to spot, and you should be taking notes. Okay, you should have already written right now. Be in a room where you are at the bottom. Be in a room where you have the most to gain, where you're definitely not the smartest person in the room, not the most experienced person in the room, not the most well connected person in the room. By definition, therefore, you're not going to be encountering enemies of progress in that room, not to your progress at least, because everything in that room will be inspirational. It'll teach you, it'll connect you, it'll be all upward. So that's really good game right there. Now, when it comes to, you know, some of the other, let's say, attributes, because right now I just gave some kind of negative characteristics, like, okay, people who don't do this and who don't do that and who don't do this are enemies of progress. So avoid those, go in the room opposite. How about some of the things that people do? And maybe I'll just give one. People tend to have, and this may not be conscious. So now we're moving into some more active, right? But not necessarily conscious ways of being an enemy of progress. So people will actively give you stories about how things have always been done one way, how no one in your family has ever done it before this way, how no one from Baltimore has ever flied to the whatever and got the chicken from the golden egg of Zeus, whatever it may be. Stories about how things will not work out. And they may even be, they may think that they may be even be serving you. Like, you know what? I don't want to give you false hope. You know what? I've seen many of one of my students come this way and they all want to be the next Miles Davis. And I just got to tell you, maybe I got to pull you. I got to tell you that it's not possible or something like that. So what are those? How do we spot that? What exactly is that thing about people giving you what I would call the opposite of a growth mindset?
Well, okay. So sometimes people are trying to provide parameters. Um,
Dre Kenton, then move out. That's the answer. But anyways, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. That's the beauty of United States of America, the beauty of the modern world, the beauty of the age of transportation and connectivity of all kinds. Is you? That's the whole point of this, and that's going to be several streams because at some point we're going to get up how you disconnect, perhaps. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doctor Thunder.
yeah. So sometimes folks are providing uh, parameters, and all of our parameters and or all of our perspectives are somewhat limited. So the parameters that they can provide they're limited, but at least it's not you, right? So it's someone else saying whatever the size of something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it may
So
be
by
that
parameters for just because you're using words out there and you're just expecting that we're following you abstractly, but you're saying that they're mentioning parameters. In other words, they're mentioning variables. They're mentioning like, okay, this is what the map looks like if you're going to do this kind of thing. It takes this much, or this is how far you may be able to go. This is how much it may cost. This is how. In other words, they're putting limits. They're setting limits. They're setting
that's right.
variables. They're saying this is a function of X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and they're listing out their X, Y, Z, and A, B, C. But you're saying that's from their perspective, right?
Well, it's from their perspective. The value in it is that it's not you, And so you can always learn something from someone else's perspective. It's one of the reasons why we need people for us to improve, because we have blind spots, but someone else may be able to see in a blind spot for us. So even if it seems negative, or it seems like they're trying to crap on your dreams or whatever,
Hmm.
um, there may actually be an aspect of truth
Hmm.
in there. Something that I deal with frequently is, I work for a university and, recruiting and everything. Uh, the recruiting for the jazz studies program, I mean, it's uh, not as well funded as college sports with respect to the extent that I can wine and dine the students that I'm uh, interested in. But same kind of idea. And there's so many spots that I need to be filled, and I always have in my mind a particular studio that maybe needs a little more love and care uh, in a particular season, because a number of folks have graduated, or just because there's a tendency to have trouble in that particular studio.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so all that stuff is, it's pretty straightforward. But I frequently get these parents that ask questions, and they should. It's important. It's expensive, especially if the student hasn't gotten a lot of scholarship money. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I frequently, having those conversations about, is the kid talented enough to do this, and parents asking me direct questions like, I mean, this is my kid. I think my kid is talented. I think and this is what my kid wants to do. So I'm
Hmm.
supporting that. What do you think? What do you think about
Hmm.
the viability of this degree? And really what they're asking me is not just the viability of the degree. They're not asking me a general question. They want to know, if they pay this money, is their kid going to be living with them after the degree is over?
That's what they're trying to find.
That's what they want to know. So I think I think that stuff is not all necessarily negative. So something could seem negative, and somebody could even mean it negatively, but you could find a way to find something in there that is helpful. Now, how how much of that negativity do you want to have to listen to? You know, uh, it might not be something you want to hear day in, day out. And so what that might mean is that limited you may need to just have limited contact with the
Not
person that
sure what
is
happened with
doing
your
it.
audio, but it almost sounds like a wire kind of like, it's just the fidelity kind of dropped a little bit. Some kind of, I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Huh. That's interesting. Can
Huh.
is it better now or worse or the same?
It's the same. It's the same. Can hear you, but it just almost sounds like a wire, like an XLR, just kind of it's getting jiggled and it's half out or something like that. Not exactly sure
How about now?
why. It's still the same. And unless I'm tripping, uh, you guys can hear the same thing in the chat, right?
Check, check. What does it sound like?
Microphone check,
What is my
microphone check.
Yeah, yeah. What does my audio sound like?
Yeah, I
Chat.
think he's
Sound
saying I thought it was on my end, LOL. So it's not on our end, it's on your end, doctor.
It's on my end. So
It might be something silly like you hop out and you hop back in. Who knows?
okay. I'll try that.
Okay, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, what's the idea here? The idea is people are necessary for progress. Also, people can hold you back from progress. Two sides of the same coin, right? And we started on the entry level. What's the entry level? The entry level of haters, the entry level of people whom are enemies to your progress, or just people whom do not offer the value, such as you're not teachers, you're not inspirational, they're not working side by side with you, they're not offering you value in terms of capital, in terms of sweat equity, in terms of networks, whatever. They're not offering any of that. So you can simply avoid that by rule number one. Rule number one is this: make sure that in any room that you're in, strive to be at the bottom. Strive to at least not be at the top of the skills, the top of network, net worth, whatever it be, viability. That way, everyone in that room is going to be pulling you forward rather than holding you back. That's a simple one. And then we went into something else, which is a little bit more subtle. This one is when there are stories that people have. They may be legitimate stories. Your granddad, your mom, your auntie, your uncle. Maybe it's nicer. Nicer in the chat always has stories about, how things will never work out. You know, how, this is how it's always been in Wisconsin or in Minneapolis, and it'll never change. So Nicer may be holding you back, but she thinks she's doing you a favor. Dr. Thunder is giving an example now about, hey, people come to him. Parents want to know, if I pay you this money, Dr. Thunder, is Junior over here gonna make it? Is Junior good enough? Is Junior gonna end up back on my couch? I want to believe in Junior, okay? I want to believe in Junior, Dr. Thunder, but even the parent is winking at you like, are you sure? It's like, give it to me straight, Dr. Thunder. I think you, well, go ahead and say something.
Do I sound better?
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. So yeah, you can continue.
The white man was trying to hold us back.
It
Shout
was
out to
trying
to
So when you're in a situation like that, okay, where you are, it's a tough one, okay, because in that case, you might be the person holding somebody back. But I think that the key in this case you already gave, because this is a very gray area, the key you already gave, which is maybe you don't want to hear that all the time. Maybe you want to go for the reality, the dose of reality, and everybody needs to measure themselves. Because I think it was mentioned in the chat, self-awareness, okay? Self-awareness, which in my school of thought is just the beginning of all things. Self-awareness such that you know how much of a slap in the face you need, right?
Yes.
Some people like to get slapped in the face a lot. I'm one of those, right? So for those of you who know Dan Pena, I listen to Dan Pena videos regularly. Dan Pena just does nothing because he's a professional. You people pay him money so he can cuss you out and tell you how no good you are and how it'll never work because you're wimpy, whatever, and you're a mama's boy. And I'm like, I can stand a lot of that. But basically, some people may not be able to take all that kind of. So know the level of abuse that you can take. Know the level of the kind of realism that you can take as far as perhaps the actual chances of you succeeding. Would you say that will be more or less what you were saying there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also say that I'm like you in that I'm irritated when people try to sugarcoat stuff. Like, you think so little of me that you can't just tell me straight. It's like that. It's like that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like, are you saying that I'm weak? Are you implying that I'm weak by putting all that sugar on there? I mean,
Mhm.
I can take it. I can take it black. I don't need all that cream and all of that other stuff in there. I can
Mhm.
handle it. I kind of take it that way, but that's not everybody. Everybody's not like that. And I think one thing that we have to do, uh, w because someone that we admire has very thick skin and maybe almost even revels in at least a low level abuse. Um, uh, that doesn't mean that you're cut that way. It doesn't mean that that is the best thing for you. And even folks uh, that sort of thrive while being sort of pummeled, um, sometimes they need some positive stuff too. I mean, because you have to think about it. Um, you Somebody sort of beating you up as they're telling you you're not doing this the right way. Okay, that's a certain kind of uh, maybe anti motivation kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
that's going on there, but that's not really telling you where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
It's not instructive. It's not giving you any details on steps that you need to take. It's just somebody like berating you, and that might make you like, okay, I'm manning up, I'm getting out of the bed, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's fine, but you still need folks to uh, provide the parameters to tell you the lay of the land, to give you some pointers, and folks that frankly are actually speaking positively about things that you're talking about. So if you share with one of your friends a particular dream that you have, first of all, you got to be careful with that, and you don't want to share that with everybody. And this is very important. It is very important to understand and know who you can share your dreams with, because some folks will just crap all over it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're crapping all over it because they themselves uh, have created a reality for themselves that it's not possible for them to see how what it is that you're saying is even possible.
Mm-hmm.
you know and so they'll say stuff like that's not realistic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that, again, one of the beautiful things about uh, America is that it doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't have to be realistic, right? You can go out there and make what is real.
Mm-hmm.
You make what is real. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about stuff like, um, reversing natural law or something.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have to we have to have some kind of idea of what reality is. But that whole realistic, it's not realistic thing, um, I find that to be usually people mean well,
Mm-hmm.
but inherently problematic. Like like usually when people say that, that's a sign that they're not getting what it is that you're saying. They're talking about themselves more than they are about your idea.
Good. I like how we're kind of gradually moving from the neutral territory of just like, okay, avoid people who are not bringing value into, okay, we're going into an area now where people are actively saying things, but they may mean well. Starting with the someone, like a professor giving real advice, right?
Right.
Someone who wants is going to give it to you straight, give it to you black, as you said. Um, and then now you're talking about people who are of a certain personality type. Because if I look at my
Mhm.
kind of example of my life. You have these types of people, okay? They always have this. It's almost like we have the idea of, the idea of reading the room, right? You read the
Yeah.
room. Yeah, do I need to tell this person some this right now or not? Should I say this to Dr. Thunder now or not? And then that's a value, a weight that you push, something you weigh against, well, commenting on something. Some people, they have to comment on something, the logic of something that's like the highest on their totem pole. They don't care who's in the room, what's in the room. Are we having dinner in the whatever? Or they don't care. Once they hear some kind of logical, some kind of thing, they're gonna start finding the logical flaws. They're gonna poke at it. They're
Mm,
like conspiracy theorists or something. It's like,
right.
it's like, I don't know about that. How did this happen? How did this happen? So on and so forth. And it's, as you said, they mean well, but it's a personality thing. And this person, okay? Terrence out there, Wallace out there, Nicer out there, this type of person. And it's not a question of, oh, they're a bad person, that's why I shouldn't share with them my dreams. It's just because naturally, when you tell them, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the bucket and I'm going to go to the well 2 streams over. You know how we can get it from this stream? Go 2 streams over, and then I'm going to pay this guy. And their immediate instinct is to say, okay, what could go wrong with this, right? right?
Right.
That's their immediate thing. They start poking holes at the thing just naturally, unconsciously. They just start doing that. So if you know that kind of person, keep your plans to yourself. That's number one. Number two, because now let's pause here for a second, okay? Because again, just so we know the direction we're going towards, okay, we're trying to avoid certain people. We haven't got to just the blatant hater yet, okay? We haven't gotten to the guy who's just trying to hold you down and he's plotting. He's literally got graph paper plotting points at night. He's literally plotting. Oh yeah, he's got compass and everything about take you down. We're slowly getting there, but let me ask you this: is there a good reason to tell somebody your dreams? Then, because we said don't tell this kind of person, perhaps not because they're bad, but because they're going to be poking holes at it. I tend to have. Let me just put my cards on the table. I tend to say you don't want to tell people unless they're actually instrumental. In other words, like you're my lawyer, you're my accountant. I need to do some kind of transaction, so I tell you.
Yeah.
Don't tell people unless they're instrumental. Why? Because you're going to get a certain kind of satisfaction when you tell people something. You're going to get a certain kind of, because there's a drive in you, there's a burning desire in you to do something, maybe to start a business, let's say. But rather than starting the business, using that burning drive and that desire to pick up the phone call, you go and you muse with your friend, and your friend listens and he thinks it's a great idea. You cannot stop the dopamine from kicking in. You cannot stop satisfaction from happening. And satisfaction means less hunger. Hunger is your best friend. So you see the whole machine I'm building here. My machine here is maximize hunger machine. Don't tell nobody nothing. Right? Just keep it, just like boiling, just keep the pressure on. Whenever you want to be like, let me say something, it's like, shut up. Use that energy tomorrow to pick up the phone, to go to the website, to do something because you want to do something. So I challenge you now, when will be a good idea to tell somebody something when they're not actually instrumental to the plan?
So one reason to do this, or one possibility, would be, I don't know, if you want to see if it's actually a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Okay.
you
I would argue
believe,
that's in the line of instrumentality, but go ahead.
yeah. Well, I still think that you have to be careful with who it is that you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
There's maybe limited reasons to share the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it could be that you actually kind of want someone to talk you out of it. You
Okay.
you might have that as a reason. It's like, I have this idea.
Death wishes.
Yeah, yeah. I X, Y, and Z. I, I kind of feel like I'm supposed to do this. Blah blah blah. I've got lots of reasons why it's a good thing. I need you to convince me that I'm an idiot for even thinking that makes any sense. Now,
Mhm.
now you might ask, like, what's the benefit of that? Well, the benefit could actually be that in listening to someone's arguments against the idea,
Mm-hmm.
just the maybe if their if their arguments are sort of incoherent and they're grasping at straws, it's not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make a lot of sense what they're saying, and it's somebody that you respect, and the things that they're saying are like, man, those weren't really that great of arguments. I
Mm-hmm.
Man, there's not really anything wrong with this idea. I guess I better go ahead and do it. I I don't know. I tend to not want to do that. My tendency is the same as yours. I just kind of keep stuff close to myself and I start working it. And then after I've been doing it for a while, hey, you see this thing I've been doing for like 3 months? It's pretty cool, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's my tendency.
I see your point. So you already kind of know give us some guidance as to this kind of person that you're asking this from.
Mhm.
Uh, because you're not just gonna go to some crazy person, the next, witchcraft, crystal ball reading, crystal wearing, whatever. Hey, here's this idea. But there's some kinds of people whom you can kind of like try to vet it against. Perhaps it's that person that likes to go through logically, right? But
Yeah,
when you're
yeah,
satisfied with the idea, you're like, yeah.
yeah, don't tell any of your ideas to Tanya TKO.
Do not tell any of your ideas to Tanya TKO. That is lesson number 3. Lesson number 1, make sure that you are at the base of the room. Lesson number 2, make sure that you understand the amount of dosage of reality that you can take. In other words, the professor giving you the real chances of you succeeding. The uh, surgeon telling you, well, this is a whatever chance of you surviving. The general telling you that, you know what, 10 men out of 15 die when they go into that hole, but now go there. That kind of a thing. Know how much of that you can take. And then we went into this, okay, well, telling people things. And now you're saying, well, there is a certain kind of person you want to tell for testing. I have this whole rule of unless it's instrumental, that means you have to check that box of instrumental. You say, well, you have to ask the question why. And if it's just because you have the urge, then stop. It is almost like it's literally telling you this is fuel. This thing wants to be satisfied. This itch wants to get scratched. The itch should be scratched by you actually doing the thing, not
Yeah,
you telling somebody about it.
that's
Because
facts, man.
um, now we're kind of going closer and closer into something maybe a little bit more malicious. Maybe it's not malicious. When somebody, okay, rationalizes failure. Okay, now we know the type. Okay, we know the type that they have an excuse for why everything they've ever done failed. They have a rationalization why everything that everybody else has is not even really worth it. They're at the cocktail party, they're sipping and they're like, yeah, I used to have money, but it doesn't really matter anyways. And everyone over here is just crass and this and that. And whatever they tell you, whatever you tell them, they're gonna tell you why it's eventually, um, over the cosmos of time, if you will, all useless, And what's a Beethoven symphony, or when you look at the universe of 14 billion years? Well, it doesn't mean anything, right? But why are you asking that question, right? The people who bring contexts, frameworks, just to dissolve things away. Like, why does it really matter? And then also, they tend to rationalize failures because failures, if success doesn't matter, guess what? Failure doesn't matter either, right? So it's the whole come see, come sa, c'est la vie, laissez faire, it doesn't really matter anyways type of people. You want to watch out for those, okay? They tend to be clothed in this particular kind of wolf, tends to be clothed in a lot of asceticism, or shall we say, let's just call it the yoga Buddhist type of path, right? I'm
Mm,
not saying they're real. These are the fake ones, right?
right,
But amongst that crowd, you're gonna find these kinds of people who tell you things like, "Well, nothing matters over the cosmos, or over the eternity. It doesn't really matter," which is true. Nothing matters in that context. But why are you putting that context there? Like, who's, you know, I'm
right,
not gonna be
right,
here for 15 billion years. I'm here now, and my meaning comes from now, not 15 billion years or over light years worth of space, right?
right.
So there is that type of person, okay? They have a particular malady, and I think these are easy to spot, easy to smell. You probably have cousins, uncles, faculty members, or workmates whom
Mhm.
just begin to ooze out all kinds of negativity. Any experience with that, and any tips on that regard?
Oh, all the time, all the time. And I'm sorry to say, and that it seems that oppressed groups tend to have more of that. Um, tend to have more of that,
Hmm.
and so I mean, I'm sorry to say, there's a lot of our people that talk that way,
Hmm.
um, and that are constantly using excuses for why this, that, and the other. And who are you to have these lofty goals anyway? You came from the same place I came from. Um, yeah, So yeah, you do have to be careful with those kind of folks. And you know, like you said, many of them are likely family members,
Hmm.
um, people that you grew up with,
Hmm.
people that you work with every day,
Hmm.
and for sure you can't share your ideas with them, any of your dreams with them. I mean, that you certainly don't want to tell them anything. You just want to you know, keep it short and sweet,
Hmm.
and keep it moving.
Let me because you said something here about they're in these particular kinds of environments. They are from what you quote unquote oppressed groups tend to have more of these kinds of people. And then let me say, well, maybe one thing, and then maybe we'll say two things about perhaps why. Because you said it, oppressed groups. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask what I'm asking you now. I'm asking you why you think that's the case. Now, because it may be the case that, when there has been a history of disaster, forget what caused it. Forget
Yep.
whether it's slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, this. What is the history, right?
Right.
Pick your history, pick your case, pick your cause, pick your particular set of events that have led to outcomes that are less than desirable, right? It has to be, there's a tendency for people to rationalize. Again, conspiracy theories, right? That's why they
Mhm.
exist, because the world cannot be this messy. The world cannot be this chaotic. The world cannot be this ungoverned. In other words, I cannot just be this unlucky, right? I cannot just have this crappy set of cards, right? It must be because of some grand reason. And why should I even play these cards? Because that grand reason still exists, right?
Yeah.
Rather than say, oh, well, the world is crappy, it's messy, nah, no one's really planning anything. And sometimes you end up with a crappy set of cards. But let me see what I can do with this, right? Let me see what I can do with this. Jay-Z is like, hey, you know what? I can't, no one really likes my rap style, right? I'm doing this kind of fast thing, slow thing, whatever, but I'm gonna sell I'm not advocating his particular methods, okay? But while he's selling you his pharmaceuticals, he's gonna give you a free CD, okay? And I'm only saying, not recommending it because of the illegal part, not because I think, not because I have some kind of strange, silly idea that, oh, these pharmaceuticals here are okay, but those pharmaceuticals are not. It's like, no, come on. But because it's illegal for certain kind of pharmaceuticals, that's why I'm kind of, saying that. But anyways, he's like, hey, I got a crap, even people don't even like this rap, okay? But I'm gonna find a way to get it to them regardless. But anyways, let me take a step back. I'm asking you, why do you think it is the case that it is in these particular communities you have people whom are more of this naysayers, negative, excuse making, rationalization? And I just gave the idea that, hey, when there's some kind of a history of some kind of that led to bad outcomes, people got to have something to say. And there's a tendency, there's going to be a percentage of people whom always want to give some kind of a grand narrative because they don't like chaos. They don't like dealing with the fact that crap just happened to them.
Right. Okay. So first, I'm gonna say that the existence of these people was not exclusive to uh, persecuted groups, but I will say that disproportionately so, there would be more in those groups. Now, the here's the principle, and this is very interesting. So, so I have a son. He's 7. He's going to be 8 next month. He's playing baseball, and I think what is it, Game 7 or something tomorrow of his season, and he's hitting 1,000 for the season, and that's great. And at that age, it's very important for kids to have success. So the league he's in, it's coach pitch, right? So, and each player gets 7 pitches. Doesn't They can swing at everything, and they still get 7 pitches. If they are fouling them off, then they get infinite pitches, and all of that. Uh, and everyone bats for each inning. So all of the players get to bat. We're not really tabulating how many outs and all of that kind of stuff. You can still get out. All of that stuff is the case, but everyone still gets to go to bat. So, and it's very important at that age. Now, if you were to, for instance, um, change that and say, okay, now what we're going to do instead, we're going to make it real rules, and and then 3 outs, and they only play for anywhere from 2 to 4 innings. So I mean, you conceivably could have a situation where not everybody got to bat, where nobody can get on base, um, a bunch of all kinds of things. Now, there would be a small percentage of kids that would really thrive.
Mm-hmm.
They would be like, I'm here to win and you guys are losing. I mean, there would be a small percentage of them that would be that it would work out for them, and they would I was like, oh yeah, I'm a winner. But there's a much larger percentage of them that are going to develop a sort of defeatist kind of mentality, at least with respect to playing baseball. Okay, and so that's why and you hear Michael Jordan talk about developing a love for the game. You have to love the game, and the way to learn how to love the game is you have to have some kind of success with the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, take my son again. Say if I'm arm wrestling my son, this is not a fair competition, right? Now,
Oh, really?
he knows he can't actually beat me, but if I pretend like I'm losing, and then I lose a few times, then he wants to arm wrestle me. If every single time I would never even make it seem like it was close, which of course it's not even close anyway, then he's not going to want to play that game, right? And so I think that's what's happening. So as people uh, experience certain kinds of things happen to them, traumas and everything over the course of their life, uh,
Mm.
it tends to damage people in a way that they can't recover from.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
there's also folks that were in the same circumstances, maybe grew up in the same household, that galvanizes them. And professional sports is full. It's full of folks that have that story.
Mm-hmm.
But for every one of them that was able to be galvanized and make themselves better, it tested their mettle, and they dug down and they grabbed something up, right?
Mm.
For every one of them, there's thousands and thousands and thousands that are just utterly crushed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ladies and
So
gentlemen,
that's my thought.
let me give a shout out because I missed it. I put it up before. Shout out to D Rock Den. Thank you very much for the $10 super chat. It's a super sticker. You got the hippo with the pink hat giving the thumbs up. Very, very much appreciated. Now, I think that we did some justice into the looking at why in these particular places you're going to have you're going to have more, right, of people whom are rationalizing and so on and so forth. And yes, you did bring in the little rat, big rat thing with the Jordan Peterson, but you talked about arm wrestling, which is a good variation on it, right?
Yeah.
And the big rat, gotta let the little rat win every now and again in order to make things go. And if you break people, perhaps that way, if presumably they're breakable, the breakable ones, and yes, you mentioned it's only a small percentage that are not breakable, right? So if you put them in that cauldron, then things are going to happen that way, and we're going to get what we get. Now, there are also other things when it comes to. So far, we're talking about individuals, and then we kind of generalize as far as the percentage of a particular type of individual in the group. But let's look at the group right now. Groups can mob up against you, right? Simply for reasons which have nothing to do with. In other words, your neighbor, okay, your neighbor is in the blue team and you like your neighbor, right? And for whatever reason, somebody from the red team comes over and has some kind of an idea, and all of a sudden you're opposed to it because you and your neighbor are cool, and this is blue team time. It's whether it's blue versus red, whether it's political or any kind of lines along which we can form tribes. Tribes tend to gang up on people, and people circle the wagons on, let's say, bad stories. Like, we take that particular individual that says, that rationalizes, okay? What tends to happen is there is a whole group echo chamber, two of them, right? The people that tell you that it's never going to be possible and you're stupid, and shout out to RBR radio network, but he's I would say that he's one of the pod pipers, or what would I call him, right? He's got that what's that, that thing, the announcer thing that Solo TV 84 is holding in his cartoon avatar.
Yeah, a bullhorn.
Yeah, he's got the bullhorn saying it out there that you are wasting your time. The white man's going to hold you back, and blah, 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 blah. In other words, there is a group echo chamber effect whereby people really coalesce around that message. It's not just this one guy, because we've so far been talking about individuals. And we mentioned this one guy at the cocktail party saying about how everything is futile, saying how this held you back, and has all the stories about everything that happened in all of history. And yeah, Roosevelt was in that room in the red carpet when he signed away the blah, blah, blah. And that's why till 2000, blah, blah, blah. Look over here. It says that you are America is a corporation. You can never make it, whatever it may be. But groups tend to resonate and amplify that thing, and they mob up together in order to, because there's a certain kind of a group identity that is associated with the story. Now, to simplify what I just said, story is identity. Identity is story. Dr. Thunder is a story. It's not just a name, right? It's not just like, oh, it's X. It's like Dr. Thunder means grew up here, born here, to this family, had this set of experiences, now has a particular identity which is in line with this story. So when there's any kind of a story out there, it can quickly go into your identity bag, right? The story of you being black, the story of you being oppressed, the story of whatever, right? That's why people can sit here today and talk about stuff that happened 1,000 years ago, and they're getting heart palpitations about it, right? They weren't even there, right? Yeah. So the idea is these stories, okay, now glom onto the group identity, okay? Just for sake of slight pop psychology, even though we're not going to get too deep, let's just call it the collective zeitgeist, the collective perhaps unconscious of a particular group, where they just kind of unconsciously just now gather together, and they're going to be like, no, Wallace. If Wallace is arguing against this person in the cocktail party, telling him why everything is inevitable and useless, they're going to be like, no, Wallace, this guy is right. It is. We are all victims. Let's rationalize the situation the way it is right now. The cards have been dealt to you because of this particular reason, and there's nothing you can do with these cards. Can you speak to that group effect? Because that story becomes a group identity. People glom onto it. It becomes even more unconscious at this point. Yeah. Presumably, the one guy at the cocktail party, maybe 5% of his brain is on while he's saying that crap. But once he comes to group, 100% of brains are off. Like, it's just blah, 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 white man holding you back, whatever it may be, whatever the mantra they're repeating, it just becomes dumb at that point. Any points about these kinds of groups and how to spot them and how to avoid them?
Well, unfortunately, in American society, we can suggest ways to spot them, but you're probably not going to be able to totally avoid them. Mm-hmm. There's these sort of Du Bois method, and there's the Booker T. Washington approach, right? And so the Du Bois approach is to protest. Okay, organized protesting.
A political approach.
Right. The Booker T. Washington approach was to become the best at what it is that you do and to transform an organization from within.
More of an economic approach, if you will. I'm over here just giving a little shorthand.
Yes. And in many ways, especially in oppressed groups, the Du Bois approach has sort of won out. And I'm not suggesting that it's never appropriate or it's never the right time to protest. I think that there certainly have been times when that was the thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
However, um, my approach always has been uh, to look at myself, to try to improve myself, to not complain,
Mm-hmm.
to get it done. And I would argue, and this is interesting. This is sort of I've not said this out loud before,
Uh-oh.
and I'm sort of just going where I'm thinking. But I think because, in particular, the black community is a gynocracy,
Mm-hmm.
and that much
Mm-hmm.
more driven by, um, you know, women in these leadership positions.
Mm-hmm.
Women tend to be more emotional, and I think that they are uh, likely more naturally going to be the ones to complain about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and women have historically been given, especially over the last you know
Mm-hmm.
decades, have been given platforms to be able to express their struggles,
Mm-hmm.
and women amongst each other tend to bring up a lot of these kinds of issues. Men tend to be more stoic, just kind of take it on the chin, you know, man up, get it happening. And it hasn't been until recently that there was even a place for men to discuss even obvious issues that we're having, especially as black men.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't really been a place for that. So
Mm-hmm.
not only is the way that the sort of mechanism is set up uh, not particularly friendly towards men expressing those kind of thoughts, but the other thing is, like I said, because we tend to be more ran by women in the black community, I think that these kinds of
Mm-hmm.
um,
The
occurrences.
voice. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just think it only makes sense. It makes sense in my mind, at least,
Yeah.
why that would be the case.
Let me uh let me just review and perhaps try to make it make even more sense to myself. Because
Hmm.
you're saying there is the political solution, which is go out there, agitate, talk, Tupac, uh, Malcolm X. I know it's a controversial person, but I would say in the same vein, that kind of a vein. And then you
Hmm.
have the more of the, shall we say, Booker T. Washington, like excellence, excellence, excellence,
Right.
and also maybe Thurgood Marshall, maybe more of a Booker T. Washington type, even though he was an activist. But it's like I'm going to be excellent. I'm going to get in the Supreme Court, right? I'm not going to
Right.
be agitating in the street. I'm going to be excellent. I'm going to get in the Supreme Court, and I'm going to write dissenting opinions because my stuff is
Right.
not winning at the time. But generation later, my dissenting opinions are now used. It's like I already did the work, right? I just get to
Yeah.
take Booker T. Washington's arguments. Sorry, Thurgood Marshall's arguments, and use right. So you have this kind of a political thing of go out there, agitate, dance, and sing, and so on and so forth. Tends to be more of the idea of beard scratching philosophers and more social people. Women are more social.
Right.
Okay, women are more going to address or seek redress via some kind of talk, politics, whatever. Let's yap about it, right? And also, it works for them because what else could work for? I mean, we got to make it clear because it's not just about being more emotional. It's about number one, being more social, and then number two, this is actually what you've been evolutionary designed to do. You're not going to put up your hands and start punching people. You don't have the upper body strength for it. It's just foolish to do that. It'll literally
Right.
be stupid for women to do something else, right? You know what I mean? It's always like
Right.
let's give the devil its due. Let's steel man their positions. Like this is what they have to do, right? They have to go out there and complain, and it works, right, for
Right.
them because and not necessarily for men though, but in the black community, because when you mentioned that this kind of political thing happens in many minority communities, I was going to say, there's some minority communities who went strictly the economic way, where they're like, I'm
Hmm.
Chinese, I'm just going to get money, buy politicians, keep quiet, I don't care. I don't talk about my representation anywhere. I don't care about how many Chinese people are in this, that, or
Right.
the other. I just got money in the bank. And screw all of you, all the rest of you, for making me build those railways and whipping my ancestors. I'm not going to say anything about it in public. I'm just going to have more money than the rest of you, right? That's
Right.
that approach. I like that approach. It's a kind of a man's approach. It's a go out there and do it approach. Don't talk about it approach. And then you have kind of given the idea that, okay, well, if you're kind of more of a gynocracy and so on and so forth, you're going to be addressing things more politically. And that generally you're going to have both of these. It's not like the Chinese don't have a political arm. They just kind of do economics first and then buy the politics, right?
Yeah.
Rather than agitate and then have people say stuff. So this is rather key because you're mentioning that you cannot necessarily avoid these types of people, the people whom are going to resonate with the stories of why things are a certain way, why the world is fixed against you. And these people are enemies of progress, to take it back to the title, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, shout out to Black Men. Can you give us a sound effect? Being brutally honest says support Black Men Media. Ladies and gentlemen, just a quick recap, okay? Where are we? What are we doing? We're getting ish done. That's what this series about. This series is about with myself and Dr. Thunder. Every Tuesday, come back. Every Tuesday, we give practical points about how to get things done. And today, we're talking about one of the barriers to getting things done. People, people. Okay. First of all, people not teaching you, not inspiring you, not bringing value. Okay. Avoid that room. That was the first one. Avoid that room. Go into a room where you are the least. Therefore, you are the most, in terms of, you have the most to gain, right?
Yeah.
And then we go into all the little things about people telling you what's not possible, what's so on and so forth. Now we're at the group level where people are having a group message, a political thing, and they're having this feverish kind of thing in their spirit and their unconscious and in their emotions about how things really should be and how they are. And if you don't really believe it and go hotep with us, then you're really not part of the group. So you need to check your desire, first of all, to be part of a group, because we all have it in varying degrees.
Yeah.
So first of all, you're going to be like, hey, I need to check my desire to be part of a group, because groups, number one, they don't have a brain. That's just how groups are, right? They'll do worse than any particular one individual in the group will. By what I mean, like when it comes to violence or bad behavior, a group is always more violent, more irrational, more stupid than any one individual in the group, right? It just goes down. It's a horrible thing. So watch out for group narratives, and this narrative can glom onto an identity, and the group identity can be strong and very unconscious. So that identity of, oh, I'm an oppressed person, which was just being told by one person at this cocktail party to you about why nothing's going to work out. When it finds a group, it becomes very powerful, and you can get stuck in some YouTube algorithm that keeps on feeding you that crap over and over again. So you want to avoid that. But speaking about groups, okay, and someone appreciates the recap. Good. Sometimes I wonder if if I'm being too much of a recap machine. Maybe there should be some kind of a meme. I always recap it after every 5 minutes. I don't know. I just like to know where I am. But apparently someone else appreciates it. Now, if we move forward, it's still in this kind of a group thing, because I think that the main thing for this first episode on this topic is what kind of environments, okay, foster this. And we already went in there. We already went into environment where people are oppressed and so on and so forth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to so these are environments where people don't have examples of success, right? Environments where people don't have those stories to counter the narrative. In other words, there's a narrative which is based on broad brush history. But if you don't have, oh, but this guy didn't have to face that. What do you mean? That's built BS. Then the narrative is even now stronger. The narrative that you can't change things is much stronger because you don't have examples. You're like, this cocktail party guy and his crew of kumbaya hoteppers must be correct. Maybe the game is all sewn up. Maybe Bilderberg and Rothschild and the white man got me all locked out, and there's nothing I can do about it because I don't have any examples and so on and so forth that show the other side of things. Okay. Now, another thing I want to say about the environmental thing, and then I want to play a video from a monkey experiment, and then we can kind of talk about the group dynamic thing, is if there's certain environments where if you had any sense, If you had any wherewithal, if you had any skill or know-how or whatever, you're going to get out, right? Eventually, right? So beware of people whom are still in that environment. In other words, beware. This is just a simple rule. Whom do you avoid? We've already mentioned some, but this one is clean. People whom are still in the hood, it's like a sieve, right? It already told you, like, hey, these are the ones whom have these attributes you don't want. They don't have the growth mindset. They're not out there giving themselves positive stories. This is not a judgment, by the way, on them. This is about how you are going to get ish done, right, Dr. Thunder? It's
That's
not,
right. That's right.
this is not about, oh, but my heart and how do I, it's like, dude, whatever, go to church, pray for them, give to do whatever you got to do. Okay. Whatever you got to do to assuage whatever it may be, guilt or empathy or whatever silly feelings you're having. Don't mean to demean your feelings by calling it silly, but they are kind of silly. Uh, Whatever it may be, it's not about that. It's about the fact that you have this particular environment where people with a growth mindset, people whom say, I'm going to play the cards that I have, the Jay-Z's of the world, or whomever, have already left. In other words, the people whom are left there, they're going to be filled with rationalizations. They're going to be filled with fixed mindsets. They're going to be filled with blame mechanics, right? And just to give a little quick thing about what I always say, my blame mechanics thing, which is basically blame mechanics works like this. Jeff Bezos hits you with a truck. He is to blame, but he's not responsible for healing you. You
Yeah,
are responsible for healing you.
that's
Okay?
right.
Because Jeff Bezos' billions of dollars is not going to walk on the treadmill doing the physical therapy. It's not going to do the difficult psychological therapy. It's not going
Mhm.
to help you learn how to talk or walk again. Whatever it is you lost as a result of Jeff Bezos, or as a result of your great grand uncle squandering the family wealth, as a result of some tribe coming in from the opposite village and killing your tribe, whatever it is you lost, no one can actually bring you back to wholeness, even if in legal parlance it's saying, make me whole again. They cannot make you whole. I could give you $10 billion tomorrow. It's not going to make you walk. You still got to get up and walk. This is the idea of blame mechanics. Blame mechanics says it's always looking for blame. It's kind of a causal link. Who caused it? Responsibility mechanics is simple. Okay. What am I saying, ladies and gentlemen? I'm saying that the alternative is simple. Blame mechanics is actually hard because you got to play all these long conspiracy theories about who started it and then who passed it to this. Was it the Bilderberg? And did they pass it to the owls in the Bohemian Grove or whatever? Who's controlling what? Responsibility mechanics says it's me. Simple, beginning and end. Why? Because it's true. Because no one else has the power to make change but you. No one else can get on that treadmill. No one else can do the psychotherapy but you. So,
That's right.
um, any comments on that whole? Oh, I just kind of just went into the whole environment thing and talked a little bit about the people whom don't have examples, and also the people whom are still in the hood playing blame mechanics. Before I play the video on the monkeys, any comments about that?
Let's go.
Oh, okay.
This is I told you I was feeling this coming
Oh,
on, man, before we
oh,
even
okay.
started.
All right. Let's
Look.
get you on the full screen there.
so here's the thing. We see this over and over. People that, because uh, they were cut from a different cloth, because they had a different level of grind and hustle, they were able to lift themselves out of depravity, lift themselves out of they didn't know their dad, or they didn't um, didn't have a relationship with their father. They didn't have the kind of resources. They didn't have the uh, resources to pay for, whatever training. We see athletes like this in professional sports all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We also see situations where athletes make very poor decisions, and the decisions often are because they're trying to keep around them. They're trying to keep
Mm-hmm.
around themselves their friends from when they were young.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes this is extended to family members. They got
Mm-hmm.
family members that got their hand out. They got, cousins and whatnot with their hand out. And it's just, you got to let that stuff go. And I know it's painful and it's hard, and maybe it's easier for me to talk about it than it is going to be for you to actually follow through. But one thing is absolutely true. If you keep that person around, eventually, it's going to bite you in the butt.
Mm. Eventually, it'll bite you in the butt. I think that's a good example of the artists, the athletes, because they do in a rather ridiculous. They went that well, which we described, the well of the leftovers, right? And we said, hey, avoid that well. That is a test chamber of, hey, not that it's fair or anything. Again, we're not judging them, but the people who got if whoever is left in there, they don't have the wherewithal or the mindset, or they have given up and now they're rationalizing. It may be unfortunate or whatever it may be, but
And
don't
they're
go that
damaged.
well.
Look, I'm so,
Mm.
look, this is, and this is going to sound, it's going to sound terrible, but
Damage is real in life.
right, that's reality. I mean, and it is not your responsibility to help someone that's been damaged beyond repair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not money well spent. It's not effort well spent. You could use that effort on someone that actually is not so damaged that they can't receive what it is that you're trying to do for them, that
Yep.
they would actually be able to pull themselves up.
And if you prefer the person that's damaged for certain weird emotional reasons, which we can see, right? We can kind of see how somebody's like, oh, but I want the puppy with the broken face. I don't want the healthy puppy, right? That kind of a thing. Like,
Right.
I could get this healthy puppy and groom into a perfect nice dog, but I want the one with the face half cut off. Now, I understand the emotional thing about that, but if you prefer that to help the damaged person, you're damaged too, and you're using them as a crutch for part of your healing. And both of you are going to be in this kind of codependent weirdness. Sorry for the pop psychology. Uh, I could go deeper into exactly what's going on, but that's a different kind of a stream. But you're using them as a crutch. You're like, oh, I prefer the damaged person, and you think you're getting the good feelings in your heart, like somehow the damaged person is more worthy. You got a goddamn problem. No, you're not a good person. It's not, oh, it's good because I like damage. No, you got issues, and you're spreading it, and you're using these damaged people as some of these freaking gauzes for your wounds, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and share this thing. This is basically an experiment. And since it describes itself in the video, I'm not going to describe it. And I'm not going to say why we're playing it, because it's going to become self-evident while we play it, why we're playing it. And then we'll come back and then we'll comment, because it bears upon very heavily on the topic today, the topic at hand, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, let me unshare and share again, because I'm quite sure I did not click that pesky share with audio button. You know that one.
Yes, I do.
The monkeys. Okay, I see that, and I see the share. So let's see. Hopefully, we got sound.
Your YouTube was muted. There you go.
Bananas.
Okay, so I'll take it to the beginning, and I'll play again.
A scientist placed 4 monkeys in a room with a stepladder upon which there was a bunch of bananas. Whenever a monkey went to climb the ladder, the other monkeys in the room were sprayed with cold water. After a while, each time a monkey went for the bananas, the others would attack it to prevent it from doing so. The monkeys learnt to never climb the ladder. But then, one of the monkeys was removed, and a new monkey wearing a raincoat was introduced. Naturally, this monkey went for the bananas, and it was customarily attacked and prevented from doing so by the others. This new monkey learnt not to climb the ladder. So when another monkey was substituted in and made for the bananas, all the others attacked it, including the one in the raincoat, despite the fact that it had never been sprayed with cold water. A third monkey was substituted in, and then a fourth final monkey. And still, whenever a monkey tried to climb the ladder, the others would prevent it from doing so, even though none of them had ever been sprayed with the cold water. When asked why this was, one monkey said, "That's just the way it is."
Well, with the exception of the monkey talking there at the end.
Yeah, right.
What do you think about this, Dr. Thunder? Because I think this is there's so many things in here. The very last statement here, even though no monkey in there has ever experienced the reasons or the trauma as to why we don't climb this ladder, they just go ahead and do it, right? So any comments to start us off with? Because I think it's a very apropos experiment, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it's directly what we've been talking about, especially with the group dynamic, where once the group sort of gets a hold of something, it becomes so powerful, and then it makes it even that much harder to dissent, because everyone's trying to hyper punish you because you don't subscribe to the groupthink. And you see organizations, churches. I think there's a lot of churches that kind of get wrapped up in this. So knowing the difference between groupthink and hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit, I think is an interesting problem, because the groupthink could be all good things, especially like in a church, could be all good things. But it could also be people sort of learning things not to say because they've been sort of chastised, and then they are punishing the next person. And then, so now everyone is sort of chasing that good, sort of relationship with whoever the top dog is, and then, but that's different. That's different than hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit. Right. So maybe people will think hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit is necessarily going to create some sort of chaos. Right. So it necessarily is going to break up whatever the continuity is, but actually what it could just be is that the groupthink has embedded in it this sort of every once in a while to deconstruct, and then that's actually the groupthink and not actually the Holy Spirit at all. And all of it is still the same group dynamic, the same monkey business.
It's all the same monkey business. And, obviously we can draw many parallels, right? Where it's like in this, you can call it, again, slight pop psychology, collective unconsciousness, a trauma in the collective unconsciousness. It's literally unconscious because we can see it. Right? They're reacting based on some kind of input, which they've gotten by being beaten up by some other monkey, which has no real-time critical reasoning going on. They're not bringing their wisdom to bear on the situation at all. They're not thinking, why should I not climb up this banana? Or what exactly? They're not running any experiments. No empiricism, no critical thinking, no rationality. And this happens. Oh, we're like, the monkeys. No, we see this happening everywhere. Okay. That guy in the cocktail party was an exemplar of this particular thing. And then him and the group that came together and tell you things about why particular ladder cannot be climbed and banana will not be gotten. But they have never quite, they can't tell you, hey, you know what? When I tried it, a black van showed up in my house. They beat me up. They threw me in the back of the van. They took me to a Sing Sing or whatever your preferred institution is, whatever your preferred institution is, they
Alcatraz.
tortured me for weeks. Alcatraz, yeah. And then every 6 months they send alien probes down, and it's painful. Okay, it's never that. They never quite tell you, oh, when you try to climb up that ladder, this is what's going to happen. They're going to tell you things about systematic and institutionalized. And don't you know that James Vanderclay IV met with this other person? Don't you know that they wrote the Willie Lynch letters? What kind of group of people would write it's like those kinds of things. And it's like, we see it's actually worse than the monkeys. Why?
Oh yeah, much worse.
Exactly, because we have the ability to give life to
That's
this spirit, right?
No.
The monkey still just stop you, but us human beings, we're gonna create a whole story about it. There's gonna be books written about why you can't climb that ladder. Okay, it's probably gonna be a religion, right? There's probably gonna be a few religions around talking about the holy ladder and how they're gonna have different myths surrounding it, right? Some say it was because of this. Some say it was when God was creating the earth and this blah, blah, blah. The devil escaped from that. That's why the ladder must never be touched. Some say it was written on a scroll. Some say that their names is Joseph Smith and they found a secret whatever and only them can read it, right? Shout out to Joseph Smith. Shout out to Mormons out there. But you get the point. You get the point. You're going to get all kinds of characters creating all kinds of stories as to why, in fact, because it's also going to be real. It is real that no one gets on top of that ladder, right? It is real because we all keep each other from getting there, okay? But we have a very elaborate story, a full, filled with characters, plots, and so on and so forth that make it even more real in our psyche, right? So it's worse. We're worse than the monkeys. Anyways, go ahead, Dr. Thunder.
Yes, monkey business. It's monkey business on steroids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's monkey business on steroids. It's monkey business on steroids.
That's great.
The whole thing about the collective
monkey backflips.
Yeah, of course, Wallace is out there with Coach Greg Adams.
Wait,
why are you laughing, Dr. Thunder? You're going to share the inside joke, or are you just going to keep it to yourself?
That's hilarious, man.
Okay.
Double monkey backflips.
I guess you're not sharing.
Well, no, it's just that's the comment of the day, the double monkey backflips.
That's the comment of the day.
Yeah.
So this we are, I think we're gonna do good on time this time because I gotta rush out to take care of crap that I got because we get ish done, don't we, Dr. Thunder? Even though I still haven't made the song that we gotta have for this show, but slowly but surely, I think I'm doing better with our thumbnails and our titles. So
that was a cool thumbnail. If you don't mind, I've got a couple things I want to promote.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you can see behind me over here. This is the thumbnail that was for a promoted video that I have on my YouTube channel right now, and I am open for business. Book a session if you're trying to become a better musician. This is all virtual lessons and virtual consultations. Also, personal development, productivity, all that kind of stuff. You can access that stuff through my website. My website is drthundermusic.com, drthundermusic.com. And let's see here. There it is right there. And so you can access that there. Also, tomorrow on my Thunder's Thoughts show, I'm bringing in the kosher clinician, and we're doing an episode called "Why Is There a Stigma About Therapy in the Black Community?" And this is, I think, going to be a really, really good show. The kosher clinician is a therapist, and that Kevin Samuels. There's Kevin Samuels right there. Kevin has been a real advocate for Black folks getting therapy, and I think that's been one of the real positive things that he's brought to the space, brought to just Black people in general.
Ask
And
him if there's an element of it, or if you thought of the element of it which says it's a white person thing to do that. Anyways, go ahead.
yeah,
It
yeah,
just
yeah,
seems like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, 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 right. You know, and then I'm going to be on the Kosher Clinicians channel, doing a show about. Let's see, what is the name again? The name is uh, sexual alienation. Is that abuse? In other words, when women hold out, you get married and then they hold out on you like that. Is that abuse? So that's going to be the topic on his show. And that'll be on his channel at 9:30 p.m. On this coming Saturday. So this is just a couple things that are happening. Thanks so much for supporting our show, getting Ish done. I think this series that we just started has a lot of potential. There's all kinds of ways that we can go, and I think if you're really going to get Ish done, this is a topic that you have to come to grips with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Book a session, book a lesson. Blind guy, his wife, their life is dropping it out there. I saw you that you got music lessons, you got other things going on. You want to learn to play the guitar, the bass, the saxophone, all kinds of other woodwinds, and perhaps even brass instruments, everything, strings, keys, percussive ones that are not so percussive.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a like I said, there's a promoted video on my channel right now, and it covers all the details. It's about 8 minutes, and it shows
Mhm.
you specifically how to access those different portals on the website, and discusses in detail what it is that we're talking about. So please check it out.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So let me do my job, right? My job is the recap. I am the recap god of these YouTube streets. What did we talk about, Dr. Thunder? Well, here's what my intuition tells me. It said, hey, we started out talking about the fact that in order to get things done, you need people to teach you, inspire you, work side by side with you, capital, sweat equity, networks, net worth, whatever it may be, a marketplace, even. There needs to be exchange for value for value. It's a flow that makes you do well, not any kind of a static thing. Without a flow, hence you need people to exchange with. However, other side of the coin is people can really, really hold you back. First step is, well, the people whom do not bring value through the teaching, through the inspiration, through the network, sweat equity, and so on and so forth. And you said, Dr. Thunder, hey, just avoid those people by being the person whom is the least in the room and therefore has the most to gain. Be the person where you're looking up to everybody like, oh, I want to be where that guy is in 2 years. I wish I had that particular skill, and so on and so forth. Therefore, you would avoid all the non-value bringing people just like that by magic, right? And then we went into all the little things about, well, knowing how much negativity you can consume and knowing when not to tell people your plans. I have a rule which says, hey, maximize your hunger, okay? Your hunger is going to be satisfied when you tell people about your plans. Let me say that again. When you tell people about your plans, you're going to have this dopamine kick and you're going to be the man. You're going to see them. It's going to have some kind of a embodiment and some kind of reality. Now you think you actually did something, but no, maximize your hunger. Whenever you feel the urge to say what you're planning to do, shut your mouth. Use that urge, maximize your hunger. It's rocket fuel. It'll push you forward. And then we went into the group stuff. That's where it gets dark. That's where it gets weird. That's where it gets strange. Okay. We went into the group stuff through the blame mechanics, people whom always have reasons why Jeff Bezos is to blame and the causal factors. They're going to tell you the trajectory of the truck, how Jeff Bezos hit you, how it came over the curb, how it turned 90 degrees to the side, and then it took a 45-degree flip and hit you on the right side of your hip, and then you flipped over. And they have all the details of the stories down and who's to blame, but that's not whom is responsible for making change. There's only one person responsible for making change. The buck stops there with the center of the entity. It may be you or maybe the head of an organization or something like that. But with your life, it's you. The buck stops with you. And then we went into the group area a little bit more. And we'll continue this conversation later next week, where we're going to talk about how to cut off these people specifically, right? We're into the group thing and we say, hey, you going out there into the hood, gathering people, the leftovers from the hood, people whom have a big sign on their head saying, hey, these are people whom are damaged, right? You went to the damaged crew because you like damaged puppies, and you think you're a better person for taking care of damaged puppies. You're a sicko, okay? And you're not gonna get this done. It's gonna mess things up for you. Went into the monkey experiment to show how group trauma and to show how we are doing monkey business on steroids because we give stories about that ladder. Okay, we actually think we know. We actually think we know why we're not supposed to climb that ladder. The monkeys at least don't know. They don't know, and they don't claim anything. We think we know. We tell those stories. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're giving you the game. Okay, it was only an hour and a half. You can go back and you can rewatch, or you could just take the recap here at the end. You can take notes, and we'll be back here next week, same time on Tuesday. And with that, I think that we are gone. Maybe I'll give you the song again to end with, the 5-minute one. Peace.
Peace.